We're actually having a speaker here in a few minutes, and then we're gonna go into some business. So he's only gonna be 20 to 30 minutes at speaking, and then we'll ask any questions if he had of him. His name is Chris Kinney. He's with the comeback, a conversation about how Democrats can fight and win again. That's what Heather Bauer, Garvin, Kimbrough Garvin are doing, and they're speaking everywhere. So please give it up for Chris. He'll be about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll get to asking questions, and then, like I said, we'll get to business. Okay?
Sure, you ready for me?
I'm ready for you.
Oh, it's amazing. Is it? You want me to
Yeah.
speak up here?
Yeah. Come on.
Super. Thanks, everyone. I'm Chris Kenny. I'm a lawyer here in town. I appreciate y'all having me. I've been talking to Dem groups with Rep. Bauer and Garvin and my buddy Brady Quirk Garvin, who a bunch of y'all probably know down in Charleston, talking about kind of where we are as a party and what we can do to sort of change the trajectory we're on. And so I just very, very briefly want to spend a little bit of time talking with y'all about sort of where we are, how we got here, and then most importantly, what we can do about it. So I think if you come to a meeting like this, you probably know that South Carolina Democrats, we've been in the wilderness for a while. We got 36 out of 124 state House seats. We're down to 12 out of 46 state Senate seats. We've got one congressional district represented by a Democrat, and we don't hold any statewide office and haven't won a statewide office in 20 years. So, the 2024 election was bad and traumatic, but in terms of things here in South Carolina, we've been in the wilderness for a long time. And so I want to talk ever so briefly about how we got here. And I think the first thing to know is that, things change. In 1990, Democrats were still a majority in the state house, controlled both houses of the legislature. And really how we got here is a story of gerrymandering over the last 30 years, and maybe not in the way that you typically think if you listen to national media reports about gerrymandering going on in other parts of the country. The story here in South Carolina is very, very particular to the South and Southern states. And I sort of come to this, I'm a lawyer. I practice here in Columbia. I've been a lawyer for 14 years. Prior to practicing law, I spent 4 years working in politics. So I worked for campaigns, I raised money, I worked for Conservation Voters, which is the nonpartisan or the bipartisan political arm of the environmental community here in South Carolina. So I worked in politics when I was maybe some of y'all's age. And then ever since I've been a lawyer, politics has basically just been a very, very expensive hobby for me. So I give away and lose, thousands of dollars of my money every cycle. And more recently, I helped get my friend Heather Bauer elected in 2022 and then get her reelected in 2024. As best we can tell, we're the only Democrat to flip, meaning defeat an incumbent Republican in the state house in the last 10 years. The only other person who might qualify is Spencer Wetmore. It was actually an open seat, but she was the only other, what you might consider a flip in the last decade. So we got our work cut out for us. And I think it's important because you're sort of seeing a little bit of this conversation percolate up. And I think the party expect to have a more direct conversation about it maybe in June when the Supreme Court comes around to deciding that Louisiana gerrymandering case. But the story of how we got here, in my mind, has a lot to do with the Voting Rights Act and a very deliberate and, in my way of thinking, perverse way of interpreting the Voting Rights Act and weaponizing it to essentially divide us up largely along racial lines and draw majority-minority districts whenever possible in the South. And so this started... of course, the Voting Rights Act gets passed in 1965 and is designed to be a tool that facilitates our transformation from a segregated political system to one where we can hopefully form these biracial coalitions where, you know, race is no longer the driving force in American politics. That's the goal of the Civil Rights Act, or excuse me, the Voting Rights Act. And basically the story from like 1965 until like the 90s, right, is that basically, you know, black voters in the South and their allies were fighting for the franchise and for access to the ballot. And generally speaking, white conservatives in the South were fighting and resisting the remedies that the Voting Rights Act were designed to implement. That basically gets you from 1965 to 1990, okay? And things started to change in 1990 and then really go into overdrive in the early aughts. And here's the key. The key is that Republicans in the South realized that if they would throw in with black Democrats and maximize the number and concentration of majority-minority districts. And that means districts where a majority of the population is from the same minority group. And in South Carolina, we're talking about black voters, right? If we were in Texas, we'd talk about black and Hispanic voters. But in South Carolina, for this time period, we're mostly just concerned with black voters. What Republicans realize is instead of fighting this, they want to lean in and partner with black Democrats to maximize the number and concentration of these majority-minority seats. Because what that does is it would coagulate and concentrate black voters in as few districts as possible, and then let white Republicans run the table in all the surrounding districts. So what you see is in 1990, this deal is cut between black Democrats in the legislature and white Republicans to force the Democratic speaker from the chair, pass the Republican gerrymander, and we are off to the races. And so in 2000 and in 2010, this effort it's doubled down and refined, okay? And you know, in 2010, there was a big national push by Republicans in their sort of Red Map project where they really looked to maximize the number of state house seats that they were getting all over the country, including in the South. And so you saw the Bush administration take this approach that not only should we be engaging in racial gerrymandering, but that the Voting Rights Act required it. And so you see over the course of 40 years, you see just doubling down and doubling down and doubling down on this gerrymandering project, oftentimes with bipartisan consensus, or mostly bipartisan consensus in southern states. And why would Democrats do this? Incumbents like this because it protects their seat, right? They, generally speaking, are not going to face a general election, and so unless somebody is willing to challenge them in a party primary, they can, you know, plan on coming back every 2 to 4 years without having to worry about raising money, talking to voters, knocking on doors, engaging in the sort of, you know, meat and potatoes of campaigns that a lot of folks in this room like to participate in. So that's sort of where we are. And that has taken us from a majority in 1990 in both houses down to 36 Democrats in the House, 12 Democrats in the state Senate. Folks, there have not been this few Democrats in the South Carolina legislature since 1872. Okay? And Republicans don't need Democrats to conduct any business, meaning they have a supermajority in both chambers. No Democrat has to show up to work, and the Republicans will just roll their agenda right on through, which is what they've been doing the last session. So that's kind of how we got here, okay? And some of the effects of the gerrymander, I think, are important to think about. One effect that probably everybody in this room is somewhat familiar with is, y'all know the Freedom Caucus? Freedom Caucus, yes, okay. Yeah, okay. So like the gerrymander produces the Freedom Caucus, okay? It produces these Republican districts that are overwhelmingly white, overwhelmingly conservative, and the entire competition, because there is no general election, right, that's going to matter, all of the competition happens in the Republican primary, and that drives extremism in that primary, right? So the most extreme candidates get the most attention from this relatively small subset of the population in these districts, and it produces like Lee Bright's probably going to get reelected to the state senate in a couple of weeks. Okay, like if you know who Lee Bright is, you know that's fucked up. So He wants to put us back on the gold standard, among other great ideas. So the gerrymander produces this Freedom Caucus, okay? But it also produces, let's call them misaligned incentives in our own party. And what I mean by that is our members don't have to worry about doing the sort of blocking and tackling, the day-to-day stuff that you would expect like a normal legislative caucus to do in order to come back and get reelected. And so, for example, last session, did anybody like pay attention or notice the Republican tax bill that was introduced in the legislature? Anybody are curious? No. Okay. So the Republicans introduced this tax bill that would raise taxes on middle and low-income families in exchange for a tax cut for the wealthiest South Carolinians. It's about as meat and potatoes an issue in terms of just like progressive tax structure. Like if you're a Democrat like this, you would think this is an issue that, you know, we would just jump on as like a great messaging opportunity. Democrats didn't do anything. Like we didn't say a word about it, okay? We didn't say a word about it. The bill actually collapsed under its own weight from just like the Republicans. They rolled it out with much fanfare and then, you know, a week later quietly withdrew it in favor of something else. But there was no messaging effort on the part of anybody in our caucuses to say, hey, they're raising taxes on poor people and cutting them for rich people. No effort whatsoever. There's a number of other things. There's a very sort of, if Representative Garvin was here, I'd ask him about, you know, his efforts to advocate against the voucher bill that passed last session, okay? When I started doing this 20 years ago, I worked for a lady named Inez Tenenbaum, who was one of the last statewide elected Democrats in South Carolina. She was twice elected superintendent of education. In the early aughts, the voucher fight and public education fight in South Carolina, like the belief in public education and that we shouldn't defund it with a voucher scheme, that was like the issue that defined us as Democrats, okay? This last session in the State House, Canberra was the only guy who they barely made a peep about it. And there was no organized effort to push back and explain to people why this bill was bad and how we could stop it or why we should stop it. There was no messaging opportunity to extract some sort of political consequence for what Republicans were doing. And we could go on and on with a number of other issues where there's just not a concerted, organized effort to do what I consider the sort of blocking and tackling that creates opportunities for us to win new races and open up new fronts like we did with Heather Bauer's race in 2022 on the abortion issue. Mm-hmm. So the work just isn't happening in the State House. And my belief is that we've created these little competition deserts all over our state where, you know, if you look at the 177 or so State House seats that are up every year, in 2024, like 6% of them were competitive. If you define competitive as like a plus or minus 5 point swing, okay? 6% of them were competitive. A handful of them were competitive in the House and in the Senate. So we've created all these competition deserts where no elected Democrat is really concerned with their job performance affecting their electoral performance, okay? And that's a feature of the gerrymander. The other thing that I think we need to be cognizant of, and is a huge structural barrier for this party going forward that we have to change, has to do with what's happening with black voters and black voter participation in South Carolina. So if we rewind the clock back to like 1990, when the Black Caucus and the Republicans decided to throw in together and gerrymander the state, you would probably hear some of the folks who voted for the gerrymander make the argument that like, hey, look, we don't have sufficient representation, change isn't happening fast enough, this is a way for us to guarantee some representation for the black community. And in that moment and in that time, those might have seemed like very, very reasonable arguments. I don't think it has panned out to the benefit of black voters and their political power, and here's why. So when I started doing this about 20 years ago, there's always been a performance gap between our white and non-white voters, and that's how our election commission tracks voter participation: white and non-white. They don't break it down by other demographic groups. So if you just look, what's the gap between white and non-white voters? The participation gap 20 years ago when I started doing this was about 3%. Okay, non-white voters would vote about 3% behind white voters, and the goal of like a field operation was to try to push that performance up to parity and get black voters up voting at the same level. So 10 years ago, 2014, that gap was about 3%. All right. Does anybody want to guess what it was in like 2022 or 2024? Anybody?
Like
6%. What else? You got one?
I'm gonna cry. No.
She's gonna cry.
Just guessing 6 to be optimistic.
6 to anybody else? Anybody feeling really dark? Anybody in a really bad space tonight? Okay.
I'm feeling great. It was 2%.
No, okay, 2%. That's wrong. 20%. 20. Okay, so we're getting closer.
What?
In 2022, the gap between white and non-white performance in the general election was almost 16%. 2 years later, in 24, it was almost 15%. So just in a 10-year span, right, you have a double-digit increase where non-white voters are pulling back from the political process and saying, I'm not voting, this isn't doing anything for me. And my view of that is, I think they're right. It's not doing anything for them, okay? So if you, regardless of what the intentions were in 1990, if you care about black political power, this system is not working, all right? So that's where we are. Those are the consequences. The question really is, what do we do about it? And I think it's really, really simple. It's really simple. We need to do what the Republicans did when they built their majorities. We need to compete. We need to compete everywhere. And we need to be willing to compete against one another. Because the thing that's missing, right, is that like these voters in these all over the state where they never have a contested general election. They never have a local state house candidate knocking on their door, you know, or two candidates knocking on their door trying to like persuade them, right? I mean, if y'all work on campaigns, you see it. A couple of things happen. When we're not working the districts, the data is shit, okay? We can't find our people. People move. They don't update their address. We've identified people as Democrats who may or may not be Democrats, all right? Because we're not talking to them, and we're not talking to them all the time. That's one. Two, we've lost the muscle, right? The democracy muscle. We can put something better. We can put something better than this one. Dawson's Creek is not bad.
No, I know.
The old guy in the room says.
Oh my god.
I didn't see Baywatch was also an option.
Baywatch is a great option. Baywatch is a great option.
Stop.
So okay, so look, we've lost the democracy muscle. All right, and like Michael, how many doors have we knocked in District 75 over the last 4 years? Ballpark it.
I can't. I mean, a lot.
How many pairs of tennis shoes you've been through?
A lot.
Uh-huh. So look, like before I helped Heather in 2022, I helped my buddy Rhodes Bailey in 2020. We ran for that state house seat. We had a Democratic primary against Heather Bauer. We beat Heather Bauer, okay, in 2020, and it made both of them better, okay? We raised more money. We got organized earlier. Democrats got energized because they had two candidates knocking on their door begging for their vote. And then, you know, the people who voted for Heather in the primary, they all came home for Rhodes, okay? And we lost that race by 250 votes. And then 2 years later, Heather won it by 250 votes, okay? And like that district has had very, very dedicated, very focused, very relentless, very on the ground work over the last 6 years. And Michael, you tell me if you disagree, but I feel like we are just now getting to the point with our data where we know who the hell our people are and how to find them. You agree with that? So imagine a district. Imagine a district that hasn't had a competitive race, that hasn't had a primary. And so that's part of it, right? Is like we're just not exercising the democracy muscle, and so we're not asking our people to come out and vote for something, and so they're just not voting. There's nothing for them to vote for. The other thing is this: these state house seats, it's not the sexiest thing in the world, okay? And your county council and city council, those are even less sexy. These are the most important seats, because if you really care about electing a congresswoman from the 1st Congressional District, right? Or if you really care about electing a statewide officer, a U.S. senator or a governor, what we need to happen is we need to go build campaign apparatuses all around this state, like what we have in House District 75, where there's just constant competition, doing the same thing over and over again, identifying our people, building that local organization, the people who put out the signs, the people who knock on the doors, right? The donors who support that campaign. We need like 15 Heather Bowers all over South Carolina, because those on the ground, low level races, that support bubbles up to the congressional and statewide candidates. And we are desperately missing that right now. So like if you look at in 2024, I mean, you know, we went, when I started doing this, Democrats, the floor for a Democrat in statewide office, I mean, if you do nothing and just put your damn name on the ballot, you get 45% of the vote. Kamala got 40% of the vote. So like the bottom has fallen out. And, you know, that's bad. But I also think there's some opportunities. And part of that has to do with the fact that, you know, we're in a state with a tremendous amount of growth. Yeah, a lot of them are people from, you know, from off. I'm from Ohio, okay? But I've been here 20 years, and a lot of these, even if they think they're Republicans, a lot of these Republicans from elsewhere, when they get here, are not going to feel the same about the party. We got to go talk to those people. The suburbs of Charlotte are exploding. Spartanburg area, Greenville, of course, is growing, but Spartanburg is growing. Tremendous growth along the coast. We got to go be talking to these folks and give them an alternative choice, even if we can't run a top tier campaign. We got to do what the Republicans have done, which is, you know, they run a candidate, they get their teeth kicked in, get 40%, and then 2 years later they say, hey, I bet we can get 45% this year, and they run again. And so, like, that is part of the reason we've gotten to this position. I should have mentioned earlier, is some of those majority minority districts that were drawn, right, to be essentially unlosable, safe seats for us, we're losing them. We lost 4 majority minority House seats in 2022, okay, and then a 5th seat. But we lost 4 majority minority seats. And then we lost several in the Senate this past year. So now we're losing the seats that were drawn for us, right? So like the status quo isn't working, and I think if there's sort of a silver lining of the Trump coalition, is that it's really, or Trumpism rather, it's scrambled a lot of our sort of traditional assumptions about political coalitions, right? About who the educated, who the highly educated, and who the poorly educated are going to be willing to vote for. It's scrambled some of our assumptions about demographic groups and what, you know, this racial group or that racial group is going to be, you know, open or loyal to this party or that. I think that the landscape is shifting, and the only way we can really figure out if there's an advantage and then seize it is to run everywhere and be willing to run against our own folks. And I'll sort of make this final point, because there's a lot of young people sitting here, right? You know, if y'all have aspiration, or you know someone who has aspiration to run for political office, this state, somebody who's not originally from here, this state is, you know, the public, the voters are have a very populist affect in some parts. But in terms of our politics, it is dominated by elites here. And there is an attitude in our party that everybody should wait in line and wait your turn. And that's bullshit. Okay, that's bullshit. The Republicans don't do that. And frankly, it makes our people better. The competition makes us better. Rhodes Bailey was a better candidate because of Heather Bauer, and Heather Bauer was a better candidate 2 years later because of Rhodes Bailey. Okay, and so, you know, we've got to be willing to have the sort of family fight, have the scrimmage, have the home game, you know, whatever you want to call it. And because, you know, look, the situation in this country is too fucked up, it's too dark, it's too messy, and if we want to, you know, protect values that we care about and people that we care about, the only thing we can really do is elect more Democrats to office. And this is not, we're not going to solve this problem overnight. This is I mean, in my view, rebuilding this party is really, it's a 15 to 20-year endeavor, just like it was for the Republicans. You know, our path is the exact same path that they had, and it's compete everywhere, be willing to compete against one another. So that's what we're doing. If you help campaigns, or you are, you know, inclined to run for office, or you know, you're active in the party, you know, please keep doing the work. Try to find a campaign to help. I'd be delighted to, I'll leave my card, be happy to, you know, hear from y'all and try to help or support what y'all are doing or make some suggestions. And we're trying to find people to run for office, okay? So I hope y'all will help with that as well. And I'd be happy to, you know, I don't make money, like I said, I don't make money doing politics. I lose money doing politics, but I'd be happy to share whatever little bit of information I have, and the folks who are helping me with this project are willing to do the same to try to help folks who might be first-time candidates get up off the ground quickly. Because as y'all know, this ain't rocket science. I mean, it's just literally, you just got to go do the work.
Yep.
And there's plenty of work to do. So I appreciate you having me. Happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
So, like you said, there are some of us who want to do it, and I definitely would like to have a stab at running for office down the road very soon. Once I get a lay of the land of everything, I think one of the things between the general election and the recent municipal elections that we just had is,
Yep.
from my point of view as a city person, you know, my background, my policy tends to lean on housing and transit, for example, and that, you know, I always felt that, yeah, I'm not knocking social policy or economic policy, it's just, I think a lot of people got burned out with the Democrats because we leaned a little more so on social policy than on economic policies.
Yep.
I wonder, first off, if that is what you feel would be the best move, because I felt like that if we focus more on economic policy, particularly housing policy and transit, and those sort of things, and energy policy, would that be a much more stronger cause to fight on? Not saying that, again, social policy is not
Right.
important.
Right.
It's
Right.
just that if we were in Pennsylvania or Vermont, I can understand being strong on social policies, but in South Carolina, a lot of people really just didn't want to hear it.
Yep.
And that's why they got tuned out at the beginning, because they feel like, oh, we're gonna fight more on, you know, those rights and all of that, as opposed to, you know, oh, our roads are crumbling, our schools are closing, hospitals are closing. And I feel like, yeah, we need to fight for those, because, I mean, it doesn't matter if you get straight black or white, you still gotta go to the hospital.
Yep.
So I always felt like, you know, do you feel that that would be more of a viewpoint that Democrats should take? And to follow up on that, given that our cities are exploding, even if some people are moving to Charlotte and Atlanta, you know, given that the municipal elections show that transit policy and housing policy are working in other parts of the country, would that be something that South Carolina Democrats should focus on?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple thoughts on that. One is, you know, everybody should run on the thing that feels authentic to them. So like, if this is something that you're thinking about, like, then that's your thing. That's your thing. That's it. But two, like, you also kind of have to meet the moment, and like, let's think about where we are, right? Like right now, 4 out of 10 South Carolinians lack sufficient income to meet basic household needs: rent, food, childcare, healthcare, education. Okay, 4 out of 10, and that's like before the shitstorm that's rolling in hits us. Okay, so like, think about where this economy will be in 12 months. I think we're going to be in the toilet, man. I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and it will be a moment where people want to hear about economic issues. They want to hear some practical solutions. So I think you gotta be cognizant of the moment. And then the last thing is, yeah, the social issues have just we've been lost as a party. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're important. I mean, we ran in Bowers race in 2022 exclusively on a negative message about Kirkman-Finley voted to ban abortion. It was 100% of, we took everything else we were doing, threw it away, and went all in on this one idea that we wanted voters to know that Kirkman-Finley voted to ban abortion. For the moment, that was the right thing. But like, the broader sort of palette of social issues, people don't give a shit, you know? And like, And like, you know, I think the thing that I find Congresswoman Sarah McBride, I think McBride, is it McBride? Yeah.
Yes.
McBride out of Delaware is really good on this. You know, she's a trans congresswoman. And she says, look, if you want to protect vulnerable communities, you got to win the damn election first. Okay? So, like, you got to talk to the voters about what they want to hear about. And I think the financial and economic storm that's coming in, yeah, that's where we need to be for the time being. Who
Yeah.
else?
We've got a question from our chat. This is coming from Blake. Would it be better to spend our energy working in NC and Georgia to ensure we get national seats? They are swing states.
Yeah, so North Carolina and Georgia are massive states with lots of motivated, well-funded Democrats that, you know, those are important states. But like the thing we need is we need people who are willing to work here because, like, first of all, there's the most I think the most upside or the most the lowest hanging fruit, right, is here in South Carolina. These seats that we just lost in the last 4 years, we ought to go get all of those back right away. That shouldn't be a tough lift. Okay, we've got the numbers there. We just got to actually run a campaign. But then in terms of rebuilding this party, you know, there's a tremendous amount of upside opportunity for somebody who's willing to like put the work in and stick with it for 10 or 20 years. You know, those other states, I think they're going to be fine. They've got good organizations. Yes, sir.
One of the things I've been like playing around with, at least on our campaigns, is doing more psychographic and demographic targeting. Are you looking at that? I've been especially kind of curious about the different generational part to see each generation is moving more as a voting block than the actual racial demographics.
Yeah, so say, Markira, say a little bit about how you do that target. Is it purely based on generation, or is it
It's roughly because like it's taking time to like fill out. So especially like micro gens make it a little bit harder. But like Gen Xers do stuff just regularly, more out of spite than actual
Right.
policy.
Yeah.
They're doing it because you told me no. Now I'm angry at you, so they're voting because you told me no, not because of your actual policy. So we try a policy message on them. It's not necessarily working as well. It's because they're doing shit out of spite.
Yeah.
As an example.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have not done that. I think that's super interesting. I have not done that. You know, I mean, look, my only sort of concern or what I want to see more on is that, like, for most of the races that we will all work on, there is an insufficient budget to talk about more than one thing, right? Like, if you can communicate only one idea to people, like, it just needs to be the same idea all the time because that's what it takes to break through. And so, like, my only concern about that, like, if you're running a statewide race, like, I think you can go crazy doing that sort of stuff, and that's very cool. But generally, I mean, if you're helping somebody running for city council, county council, state house, I mean, I tell my candidates, you need a message so simple even the voters can remember it. Okay? So.
I have a
Yes, sir.
two-part question for you as a future candidate.
We got a lot of future candidates. I love this. Okay.
You're going to be surprised. We try and churn them out. I guess it's a two-part question. First is going to be, what is the mistake you see candidates most often make, especially on their like inaugural run? And I guess what flip side of that, what do you not see candidates do that they very much need to be doing?
Those are good questions. Couple of things. One, the most important thing is money. Sorry, it is. Okay, nobody wants to hear it. The most important thing is money. Money solves a lot of problems, and you just need to be on the phone, relentlessly calling for dollars. And look, if you're running for state house or you're running for city council, county council, whatever, like, here's how you raise money. Anybody ever do any fundraising training? Anybody? Yes? Okay, yes? Okay. Here's how I was trained. Emily's List. Y'all know Emily's List?
Yeah.
Emily's List trained me. Okay, here's fundraising 101. The first group of people is the people who love you just because they love you. It's your family, your friends, they don't even give a shit about politics. They just love you, okay? And you need to go get all of those dollars and get the maximum, get $1,000 from every one of those people who can write you a check immediately, like day 1 through 10. That's the first group. The first group buys you credibility with the second group, which is the people who believe what I believe. Those are your traditional Democratic donors, the people in this room, the people who might maybe they support you on some, if I were running like lawyers, right, care about tort reform, things like that, people who believe what you believe, bigger group, but in order to show that you're viable, you got to have all the money from that first group to say, hey, I'm a credible candidate to get to the second group. And then the last group of people are the whores, okay? They're the people who just want to be with the winner, and if you're a first-time candidate, don't waste your time. If it looks like you're going to win, that money will just come to you, but you probably won't get any of it, and you don't need it. It's like that's fundraising, and you just need to be relentless all the time and remember that. I mean, most people hate asking for money. It sucks, okay? The money is not for you. This is not your money. This is money so you can do something for the public good. So that'd be one thing. The other thing is just get out there and do shit, okay? Don't I think we have Democrats have a little bit of a analysis paralysis problem where it's, we're always calculating and whatever. And the reward structure for candidates right now, if you look at who's doing well, it is not pedigreed people who are careful and cautious and have a focus group response to everything. That is not working, okay? Voters, I mean, for their many demerits, the voters are actually very good at sussing out bullshit. And what I would encourage candidates to do is if you have a position that's unpopular or you perceive to be unpopular, let's say in the party, don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. And the controversy sometimes, it elevates you and legitimizes you because politics is ultimately about controversy. So if there's no controversy, then there's no reason to pay attention to you. So don't be afraid to break something. Yeah.
Thank you.
What else? Let's go to this young lady right here.
Alright, so this was, it was actually got this idea from a TikTok that I saw in piggybacking off of his, I think people are kind of tired of hearing the same phrasing
Yeah.
of the same points.
Right.
And, maybe, one of the interesting things I saw is, I tested this on my dad, and yes, if you use, left talking points that they know are left talking points, it's an immediate veer away. Immediate. So, one of the rephrasings that I've heard, instead of break up big tech, it was bring back small market competition in tech. Another one that I heard was instead of free community college and free trade school, bring back workforce competition. That was one that stuck with me real hard.
Yeah. So I think I think politics generally and Democrats in particular, we got obsessed with the sort of marketing of language, and I know I personally fell into this whole y'all know Frank Luntz. Okay. So Frank Luntz wrote his book Words That Work. That book has to be 15 years old at least. It came out of some election where we got our ass kicked, and he's the Republican pollster writes this book, and it has all sorts of. This was death tax, right? Was this was one of his little inventions. I actually think we're in a space right now where I would not spend a lot of time sort of worrying about the marketing of my language. I think what you're going to get rewarded for is
But
being
you can just be my dad.
good. Well, sure, but I think to your point about the phrasing is that you want to. So I'm a lawyer. I practice law. I write. The people who read my stuff are judges and other lawyers, right? And so often good writing is about making a complicated thing simple, and I think that's what a good politics is as well, right? So it's how do you distill something to the essence and make it clear and simple? That's what I would focus on rather than worrying about, is this too coded one way or another? It's how do I make it simple? And if you can explain it to an 8th grader, then great. Then you probably you got to where you need to be with your message. Yes, sir.
Can I just piggyback on
Yeah,
on
please.
that? So to her point in what you're saying, because you're both the same thing, is it's becoming a generational thing for what's simple, and that is what's throwing it off. So simple for what was Gen X's simple, you can say that word I am literally saying that same phrase
It's a
to
little different.
Gen Alpha
Yeah.
people, and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I don't understand. I'm going crazy, having panic attacks." And I can say it to the Gen X person, and they understand it perfectly. So we're losing that. It's kind of like a Tower of Babel situation. What is simple for our generation is complete complexity for theirs, and what's complete complexity for them is, or simple for them
Or vice
is
versa, yeah.
complex for us.
That's interesting.
I think there's
That's
a lot
really
of
interesting.
trying to jump on there because not just the generational matter is the fact that we're still a relatively rural state. Not, I mean, the frontier's shrinking,
Right.
but it's really hard because yeah, we got a black voters, that's for sure, but we still have a growing white population.
Yeah.
And an aging one at that.
White and Hispanic voters, those are the two largest growing demographics in the state. Yeah.
Now, looking at Georgia,
Mhm.
like if you're not in Metro Atlanta or Savannah or Augusta, the rest of the state's population in those counties are basically dying out and getting smaller and smaller.
Yep.
So, yeah, we definitely have to be, attentive in Richland County, but how do we address trying to address those voters' concerns, particularly on the older side, in counties like Union County and Lawrence and McCormick?
Yeah. So the way, I mean, look, when you're a hammer, all you see is nails. So like to me, the solution to every like, how do we engage is like, well, we need a campaign. We need a candidate who's running to try to communicate something to those people, right? So like to me, the solution to all these problems is more campaigns. And the candidates running in those spaces are going to run very different campaigns in terms of the tactics, in terms of the message, in terms of the local issues that they're responding to. And I can't really tell you what those are, right? Like I don't live in Union County or whatever, but like it's the people there locally who need to figure out like what's gonna resonate with those folks. But to me, to your point, like how do we engage? I think that the common thing, whether we're in Richland County or Union County, we just need a campaign. Yes,
That's
sir.
gonna be our last question. I think Chris can stay afterwards. Can you stay afterwards?
You know what? I have a 7:30 I need to be on, but I'm going to leave some cards up front, and y'all please reach out. Happy to talk more or help you with what you're doing or just be a sounding board. So yeah, please call me. I really appreciate y'all. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get this show on the road for our meeting. Let's see here. So my report that I'm gonna say is that this year has been, very different and good, and also it's ending weirdly, but it's been a good year for us as an organization. And I think that, we put the people in place that we need to grow this organization. This room is still half full in December, you guys. And we never usually have this December meeting before our, our party, which we will have is on this Friday at 7 p.m. But we put everybody in place that we need to. But I don't know if anybody has saw the chat, but this is one of my last meetings as your chair of this organization, and we're leaving it in a place right now. We've grown to over 100 people in our group, and we've been doing a lot of good work, and I can't wait to see us grow in the next time. But as of January 14th, the transition will happen starting January 1st. But January 14th at our business meeting, I will be stepping down. Don't all say at once. I'm just kidding. No, but I will still be a member of this organization. I will still come to meetings if I take this other job that I'm looking to get, they don't work me to death. And so yeah. What else? The holiday party will be at my house. So I will, in the future, we can definitely use my house as a holiday party in the future, as long as we have a house. I'm just kidding. No, we don't have a house. But yes, as long as we have a house. And yeah, so yeah, so vice chair's report.
You're gonna give that nice statement.
Oh yes, I'll do it. I was gonna do it in new business, but I'll do it now. Just so that everybody knows, we had an incident. We had an incident in the chat on November 18th and 19th, where a former member who is now, well,
Not a former,
a suspended member made some comments in a call, like a voice message to trying to find this another member, and
I can pull it up for you if you want.
I'm trying to find it. Let me see.
Here.
Okay. This voice message is uncalled for, reprehensible, and not what we do here at YDCM, as we are a family and we treat everybody as family and such. And I'm gonna read a public statement that we've had that we're gonna read. We did have a leadership meeting, and this member has been suspended as of December 3rd until December 3rd, 2026. So they got a year suspension. And I'm gonna read this statement to the affected member.
Here.
Sorry, this was written by leadership? Or
This is
by-
written by leadership. Yes,
If you need
Um,
it, it starts right here.
I got it.
Okay.
Wait, is it from? Wait,
That's the one I sent in the chat if you'd like to use that one.
So is the combination all?
No, this is simply a pretty straightforward statement.
Oh,
I would read what Austin sent. Yours was beautiful. Austin just has his nose in it right now.
yeah. I'm just gonna read the email that we sent to the affected member, and we'll go from there. Hello, I'm Nia. The Young Democrats of the Central Midlands leadership team met on December 3rd to discuss the complaint against Philip McFadden. We thank you for coming to our leadership meeting that night. McFadden has been suspended for violations of the YDSC Code of Conduct for 1 calendar year, effective December 3rd, 2025, and will not lift until December 3rd, 2026. The Young Democrats of the Central Midlands are committed to fostering a safe and welcoming environment to organize, strategize, and build community. Our mission is compromised when members are subject to crass and reprehensible statements that degrade them. As a chapter, we sincerely apologize that our first responses to this incident were nowhere near enough to protect you and our members. Okay. So we have, we also, as leadership, have apologized to the individual who was degraded in our chat, and it will not happen again. We have we have mechanisms in place now to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and we will definitely be.
that other thing that was said at
Yeah.
the meeting, has there been any?
We will approach that.
We will push.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's go back to the okay. My chair's report is done. Reed, I don't think he has anything, but I'll say this. I'll say it. Reed is a candidate for political office. So he has been in the process of resigning as well. He will be resigning the same day as me, as January 14th, to focus more on his campaign, as he does have a family and a young son to care for as well. So he will be resigning on January 14th. He has already sent the email to me, Trevon, our president, and the chapter. So that's pretty much all he has. He's been working on things as well, but in the end, he is trying to focus more on his campaign. So, like I said, he's resigning January 14th. Sophia, do you have anything?
I'll come up just to say hi.
Okay.
Hi. I think I really genuinely only see one new face in the room. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sophia. Jeremy has already said he's stepping down, and Reed is gonna be stepping down as well. They have asked me to chair this organization. So, I don't think we'll obviously go through stuff in January, and we'll, get into all the nitty gritty of how we're gonna do transitions and all that good fun stuff. But obviously the leadership from Jeremy and Reed it's appreciated above and beyond. I don't really, I'll get emotional if I keep talking, so I'm not gonna talk too long. I'll leave that for January. But it's been a long month for those of you who understand what's been going on. I would like for us all to just gather as a community and move on to better things. I think that we have done great things over the past year, and I wish that's what we could be predominantly focusing on. Unfortunately, there was an incident, and we are going to learn and grow and do better in the future. And I think I've said this before, this is not how I wanted to walk into chairing this beautiful organization, but we're gonna learn, and we're gonna grow, and we're gonna do better, and that's the best that we can do. So, beyond that, I'm really excited to, I only joined this organization a year ago, so this is new and fresh and not where I saw myself being, a year in. But I think it's gonna be a great new year, and I'm really looking forward to doing fantastic things with this group of people. So, we'll talk about changes in other leadership positions. I'm gonna wait until January so that those people aren't bombarded right now. But they have already been chosen and selected and agreed to take higher positions. Amazingly qualified human beings who are going to, lead this organization with me. And I think that's about all I'm gonna say, because I'll just keep talking. The only other thing I want to bring up, obviously we have the holiday party. If you're going to attend the holiday party, please consider bringing some, a jacket that you don't wear anymore, or some kind of clothing, warm clothing for donation, because we are doing a clothing donation drive with Food Not Bombs. That will benefit the unhoused population in downtown Columbia. So we definitely want to be able to give more than a couple of items. We're going to collect at the party on the 12th. We're going to extend, just because it's been kind of a short time since we decided on a date for the party. We're going to extend that to next week's meeting. So if you're watching, and you're not going to be at the holiday party, but you will be at next week's meeting, please bring clothes for donation then.
It will not be here because SCBP is closing December 17th, so it will not be here.
Okay, so to be announced. Maybe
We'll announce
okay.
the venue, I think, by the holiday party.
Yeah. So stay informed in the chat. That'll help you.
Sorry, did you say it will be closed,
Or
or
it's
the
been
building
closing.
will be permanently closed?
So no.
No,
No,
It'll be closing for the holiday.
for the holiday. holidays.
We decided the Democrats have had a good run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've just decided to shut it all down.
We're just
Two
gonna
different.
say bye.
Are we gonna
no,
do-
no, it's closing for the holidays.
It wasn't just you.
Yeah.
Get them closing for the holidays.
Yeah.
Yes, for
All
the
right.
holidays.
I think that's it. Thank you guys for being here on a Wednesday night. So, yeah. I'll make a big emotional thing in January.
Okay. Alright, cool, Austin.
All right, 1 second. All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Austin, our secretary for YDofCM and also third vice chair for Richland County Democrats. So I like many of you attended the RCDP executive committee meeting on November 19th. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who shared dishes at the for Friendsgiving as well. That was actually a huge. Some of those dishes were actually a huge hit with a lot of people. We were also able to share news from YDofCM with the Richland County Executive Committee. So that was a huge boon for everybody. As you know, there was an incident that occurred 3 weeks ago. We did manage to investigate and discipline this member very quickly, which is actually some. And in the process, lay out a process by which we can hold members accountable for violations of the code of conduct in the future. So, in future meetings, whether it's at next week's regular general meeting or in January, our state secretary Justice Hills has put forward a bylaws change in our rules to formalize this process. I will have this shared with members in the coming days, of course. Last weekend, I did attend the YDA National Committee meeting in Omaha, Nebraska. Mainly so YDSC doesn't get fined in 2027, but also because there were a couple of important news there were a couple of bits of important news coming out of that meeting. We did discuss some rules changes. I know that YDA was considering a change that would allow the National Committee to amend the platform between meetings, but they eventually turned that down. Also, Steph Campagna-Whedon, most of you don't know who she is, but she's our DNC member from YDA. She's going to propose at this weekend's DNC meeting in Los Angeles a proposal that would basically add 57 DNC seats, one for every state and territory, including us. These seats would be reserved for people under the age of 32 at the time of their election. This is something we do not. This is right now our only DNC member under the age of, I want to say, 40 right now is I believe a college student who is currently out of state. Annika Crowley. Yeah, Annika Crowley. So basically, if this passes the DNC, there there would necessarily need to be a special election at next year's SCDP convention for that seat, and then in 2028 we would elect like 4 DNC members instead of 3. So I will also have the reports from YDA. I will also have the officer reports from YDA in this meeting's minutes as well. So you'll be able to see them next month. But anyway, thank you. Thank you all. I'll see you at the holiday party.
Yeah, just text it to me. Y'all hear me? Okay, good. Oh, good evening, y'all. Welcome to the Late Night Show. I'm your host, Timothy Brown, I'm the treasurer of the Young Dems of Central Midlands. I'm just gonna wait on Jeremy to bring up those numbers, but honestly, first off, it's been a hell of a year, especially this fall. I just want to send out my thanks again to the crew for your support in me as treasurer. I know, I've been in and out, but when I'm here, I'm here. My duties in the real world and all. But again, on behalf of the crew and behalf of leadership, thank you for letting me be your treasurer. And on behalf of myself, I want to thank Jeremy for the wonderful work he's done as chairman. And honestly, I gotta give a shout out to Marcurius for even founding this group and being the leader that he was when he was around and sticking around for us. So Marcurius, thank you. As I said, if you were there at the particular incident, I'm just gonna bring up this one time that these two right here I often look to as my moral guide in this party because as much as I have been unfiltered in my own wording, I tried to hold myself to those type of ideals. Real quick, the numbers, I know I set a certain goal for what we want for it, and I know it was a little above board, but the fact that we kept stable, because we are around, and don't forget, we got to send that money out to Lexco and Adresco and all that stuff, so that's going to change, I know. Right now we're at about 1404.85 as far as the money is concerned, plus some other funds that are there for Lexington County and Jessica, so, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're definitely going to ramp up in the new year, particularly give the midterms and all that. So definitely any opportunities we have for fundraising.
The savings.
Oh yeah, the business savings there.
That's for our get out the efforts.
Okay, so that's at 1,463.36. So that's going to help us out. The 1463 36 cents. Yeah. I might ramp up the threshold that I settled because I know we were back and forth with that. So I'll touch base with that as I go into the new year since I got some other stuff lined up. Only thing I can say right now is that once we ramp up, we're gonna be hopping and moving. So like I said, anybody got any ideas about any events coming on so we can be out and about, we'll work with marketing for QR code and flyers and whatnot so we get that out. And that way we can have money flowing in a little more better. I'm trying to do a little more strategizing on that, God willing. And the only thing I can say is on the personal front that I'm working on is that the legislative package that I wanted to bring up is almost done for the different bills that I want to present to legislators and to city council. Because as you know, they just did a food hall and they're doing a lot of new stuff here and there in the town, in the city, and the county. So I'd like to see some more efforts on housing and transit. So that'll be one of my things in the new year. So I'll get a more rough draft sent out by the end of the year, hopefully. And counties and commission boards is that back up and running for the county. So if you're in Ridgeland County, you can run for a board and a commission. Deadline is December 5th. Yeah, 1 second. Is December 19th, excuse me. December 19th, 5 p.m. sharp for the county. City, you can get it in, let's call it that same day too. but there's several seats that are open. Get some young Dems on there to address issues in the county and the city. But otherwise, like I said, we'll work with marketing, get some stuff done for the new year. And I'm sorry I won't be at the party. There's some stuff that got up, but y'all have a great time. All calm down.
All right.
All right. So to add to that, so there's 1404.85 in the general fund, 1463.36 in the GoTV savings fund.
Mhm.
That is a total of $2,868.21.
Yes.
Sorry, you said 2,000 or 20,000?
2,800.
$2,868.21.
Well, we can spend it whenever we want.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, some of it's.
Well, not money savings.
It's not promised to anybody. We can spend it however we like.
As long as I get the okay.
Actually, no. The money in savings actually has to go.
Has to go to me. I
We
agree.
already-
direct voter contact.
Yeah, start doing it. Okay. Committee chairs. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I do.
We have policy, and then I don't think membership. Nothing.
I'm membership,
Oh,
and no, there's no.
Nothing. Okay.
Party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, as for those of you that don't know, I'm West. I am the chair of policy. We do have a few things coming up. First off, it was a beautiful, beautiful year here at YDCM. I know there's been some dour faces, but I want to go over some of the performance that our candidates actually had this year. Not only we were for the city council at large position, we were able to help both Oddity Bustles and Sam Johnson in their campaign. Sam Johnson obviously won, but the participation for that race was very, very high, so we love to hear that. For the mayoral election, we actually had Jessica Thomas, who's one of the young Dems here, punch way above her weight class and ended up with 32% of the overall vote in Columbia, South Carolina. That is massive. So big shout outs to her. Ashley McCall in District 4, also another one of our young Dems, put up a huge fight and got way more Democratic votes than we expected to get out. Ultimately, she threw in the runoff election her votes towards Julie Lumpkin, who also did way better than we thought, who we also supported. So that was huge, huge, huge results in what should have been just a rebuilding year. So that was a beautiful example of what the YDCM could do and why I'm very happy to be here. Question?
No, I just want to add a comment. They're starting to talk about adding a new council seat because of Ashley.
Ooh. And that is all because of the support we were able to give her. That is beautiful. So thank you to everyone here and in cyberspace that helped us do that. That is beautiful. And we've got bigger and better to go because next year, obviously, best time, it's midterms here in South Carolina. Love that, love that. One of the biggest things we're going to focus on kind of in this downtime is going to be education. And with that, this Saturday in this very location, SCDP, from 2 to 4, our own Zane Rossler is going to be giving a lecture on the history of immigration in South Carolina. I will be here. Hope to see all of you here. It's going to be wonderful. He's been researching it for 2 months and messaging me about it almost every day. So it is going to be... I promise you the passion is there, the research is there, and it is very important. You just heard earlier the significance of understanding our constituency, and this is going to be a big step in doing that. So very much we encourage you, invite you, come out here. It'll be after the holiday party, so we made sure to schedule it later in the day because I don't think anyone's going to be waking up early after that. Yes?
Is it going to be recorded? Please say yes. Please say yes.
It'll be recorded in the same way that the public speaking event was recorded. So that means the recording will be available upon request. Which brings me to my last point, thank you very much, Tim, which is if you are interested in giving a lecture on some information you know or how you think you can make South Carolina better, please, please, please tell me, tell my co-chair Emma Connell over there some ideas you might have. We will be, especially if you are in leadership, drafting people to give lectures that we want to do. The current ideas we have is we do want to give a lecture on the basics of leadership. We're thinking about drafting either our soon-to-be former chair or our soon-to-be current chair, either Jeremy or Sophia. I have given one previously on public speaking that I will likely give again as we get a new crop of members. Also working on one on public debate. That'll be very fun. But we are looking to expand that. We very much want to draft Tim to talk about public transit and housing. But he's a little coward when it comes to speaking in front of people. So that's a little difficult.
I'm not even knocking that one.
I'll believe it when I see the presentation. But aside from that, if you are interested, please let me know. We are temporarily calling this our education exchange. So if you are interested, please get in contact. Well, that being said, that's all I have. Thank you all very much and look forward to 2026.
All right. Yay.
I'm sorry, I gotta
Advocacy, do you have anything?
No, Haley didn't see anything.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm
So,
sorry, the Army Navy game is on, man.
let's see. We need to do approval of November minutes. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. November minutes are good. We have no old business. We talked about Philip. Bylaws change.
I will, because his sponsor is not here tonight, I moved to table this to the next meeting.
Okay. You mean the January meeting?
Can we push it to January?
Okay, I can push it to January. I moved. I moved to table that point until our meeting on January
14th.
14th.
Okay. All those in favor? Can I get a motion? I'm in second.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, it is tabled. Action items. Basically, get your rest until the midterms, because our former member / we still claim him. I can't really say we endorse
We
him.
don't, because we don't.
But we don't endorse him. But he's running for office. He's running for governor.
Can we still work highly support because
No, we
Yeah.
can't.
We can't.
We can't.
Why do you see bylaws?
The YDofC bylaws, as a matter of policy, prohibit us
Yeah.
from using any sort of plain understanding of the endorsement. So,
Yes, we're
while
not
we
endorsing.
cannot say that we endorse any candidate, what we can say is that there is a young Democrat running, which is one of our
Yes.
core values.
That's what I said.
Yes.
A young Democrat is running. Yes. And he is a former member. Yes. Jermaine Johnson, by the way. Signal chat. We have a signal chat. Please join us. It gets lively. Hopefully not anymore. Sorry, I had to put that out there.
And then it's not lively because you don't see it.
Yes, you can mute it. Yes. But yes, join us in
It
the
can be
signal
lively,
chat.
but it shouldn't be that.
It'll be
spicy.
spirited and
It
uplifting.
can be lively, but not spicy. Okay, annual holiday party, my house, December 12th, 7 p.m. to 10. Depending on how last year we stayed at my house till 3:45 in the morning. I don't know if anybody is gonna be there till 3:45, but it's an option. But still, if you're in the mood, you're still good, we can go past 10. Okay, so yeah. December 17th meeting, we will get that place, that location, and then we are adjourned.
Might be a special election.
Yes.
Two special elections.
2 special elections. December 23rd, Chuck Hightower is running against a Republican. The early voting started Monday. I voted for
Yes, the 23rd
Monday.
is the day of election.
December 23rd is the election day, which is 2 days before Christmas.
Christmas
I don't know
Eve.
why they put that election there, but hey, if we can win it, let's do it. And then what's the other one?
Sonia Ogletree.
Ogletree, yes.
In
In
Somerville.
Dorchester, Somerville.
If you're in Somerville, go
If
vote.
you're in Somerville, go vote. That's January 6th,
Yes.
2026.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Anybody have any other announcement?
Yes.
Oh, I have one actually. For those of you that do celebrate, the Video Game Awards will be tomorrow, streaming live on Twitch and YouTube at 7:30 p.m. I will be watching for the comfort of my own home, but we can do a watch-along where I rant about my thoughts in a live chat. If anyone's curious, come talk to me.
Yes, I do have. Well, two things. Don't go to that, but so two things. Army Navy, 3 o'clock Saturday, just in case you missed out on that.
We'll be busy.
Also, they just got word that Vice President Harris will be coming up soon to town on February 5th. Tickets haven't launched yet, but she will be in town for a book tour
Township.
at the township. I'll put the link to
Tickets go out tomorrow?
Friday. So just keep an eye on that.
And Walter has something.
Go ahead.
No, I said you have something. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. We'll have a former. No, wait. I can't say that yet. My bad. Sorry. I can't say that. But we will be having a general body meeting next month. In January. So stay on the lookout for that.
He's our new EVP.
Woo! I'm not dressed appropriately. I apologize, but hello. I don't know who that is. Lauren, nice to meet you. But yeah, they just made me executive vice president. So that was really cool. I'm still taking it in. I apologize for my demeanor. It's been 3 days. I've had 12 hours of sleep. I finally submitted in my final. So, master's loading, and then you already reminded me about special elections, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's it then. So.
The democracy bill? Democracy bill?
Oh, I'm actually on the call right now. That's why I'm acting all weird.
Bye. All right. We are adjourned.